Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Look, I'm absolutely thrilled you're here right now, because we're about to unpack something that is going to completely flip how you think about selling digital products online. We're just going to dive right in. If you're selling on platforms like Etsy, you know the drill. You spend hours, maybe even days, perfectly crafting your digital products. You get the design absolutely right, you set up your shop, and then you just wait for the sales to roll in. But what if the very images you're using to showcase all that hard work are actually pushing your customers away? Today, we're digging into some fascinating source material that breaks down the visual psychology of Etsy mockups. We are going to uncover a real game-changing revelation about your listings that might just be the exact missing link in your conversion strategy. So get ready, because we're going to look really closely at how the human brain interprets the images in your shop and how making one simple shift in your visual presentation can literally transform your entire business.
So, I want you to take a quick second and really picture your own shop listings. Here is the big question. Are your Etsy mockups actually giving people homework? Think about those primary images you use to hook a potential buyer as they're scrolling through a sea of search results. The source material we're analyzing today issues a very direct warning about this. Your presentation might be actively scaring buyers away. Why? Well, because you might be accidentally giving them homework. Think about it. When a buyer is browsing, they're looking for a solution to a problem in their life, right? They're looking for ease. If your mockup requires them to mentally figure out how the product works or what it's going to look like when it's totally finished, you've just assigned them a task. You've essentially given them homework before they've even clicked Add to Cart. And, as we're going to see, the human brain has a very specific and honestly very negative reaction to this kind of uninvited mental labor.
Let's talk about the whole clean and blank aesthetic for a second, because there's a huge misunderstanding here. Go check your shop right after this. Are you showing completely empty spreadsheets? Are you showing blank planners with crisp, empty lines? As creators, you probably think an empty template looks clean, right? You think it looks professional and minimalist, like this beautiful blank canvas just waiting for the buyer. But when we actually look at how the buyer reacts, the reality is stark. This approach is absolutely scaring buyers away. The source material is completely explicit about this. What we perceive as a clean, tidy design, human psychology actually perceives as a void. Like the visual aesthetics of a blank spreadsheet might look awesome to a graphic designer, but to a stressed-out shopper who's just trying to organize their chaotic life, an empty grid doesn't say organization. It says here is a massive, looming project that you now have to tackle.
Well, let's break down exactly why that happens. In visual psychology, a blank mock-up basically equals mental work. Our source material points out that when a buyer looks at a blank template, their brain absolutely does not see a helpful tool or a quick solution. Nope, it sees a problem, it sees homework. The human brain is constantly trying to conserve energy. That's just how we're wired. So when it encounters a blank planner page, it has to instantly burn cognitive energy trying to imagine what goes in those boxes, how long it's going to take to fill out, and whether it's even going to help in the end. That is exhausting. You're asking the buyer to do all the heavy lifting of imagining the product's value instead of just serving up that value up front. You're trying to sell them a tool to save time, but your visual presentation is immediately demanding their time and energy. It just doesn't make sense to the buyer's brain.
So, this brings us to a huge, absolutely crucial pivot in your strategy. We have to completely shift away from the to-do and fully embrace the done. This is the core shift in presentation that the source material heavily advocates for. Think about it. A blank mockup is literally just a to-do list. It screams, hey, here's a bunch of work you have to do once you buy this item. But buyers are actively seeking the exact opposite of that. They are craving the feeling of done. They want the relief of a finished task. They want to visualize what their life looks like after all the friction has been removed. Your job as a seller isn't just to provide the framework. Visually, your job is to provide the feeling of completion. We have got to stop showing them what the product could be, because again, that's just a to-do list, and start showing them what it looks like when it is fully completed and functioning perfectly.
Okay, I really want to pause right here. Let's just deliberately slow down for a second and let this absolute golden rule sink in, because it is captured so perfectly in our source material. Buyers don't buy potential, they buy a finished outcome. I'm actually going to say that one more time. Buyers don't buy potential, they buy a finished outcome. People are not parting with their hard-earned money because they want the opportunity to organize their budget. No way. They are paying you for the feeling of having an organized budget. They want the done, not the to-do. If you're out there only selling the potential of your product, you're relying entirely on the customer's imagination to close the sale for you. And frankly, a scrolling, highly distracted buyer on the internet does not have the time or the mental energy to imagine how great your product is. You have to hand them that finished outcome on a silver platter. Luckily, fixing this is actually super straightforward.
The source material lays out 3 exact, actionable steps to turn this around and skyrocket your conversion rates. Let's walk through them. Step 1. Fill your mockups with realistic data. Seriously, no more blank cells in a spreadsheet. Put in realistic numbers, realistic categories, and actual text. Make it look like a real human being is actively and successfully using it right now. Step 2. Show beautifully completed results. If you're selling a planner, show it filled out with neat handwriting, color-coded tasks, checked off boxes. Show it in its absolute most ideal, victorious state. And step 3, illustrate the buyer's life after the problem is solved. Your visuals should instantly communicate relief, organization, and success. When a buyer looks at your image, their brain should immediately register, that is exactly what I want my life to look like. By following just these 3 steps, you completely remove the mental homework. You replace all that cognitive load with instant, visually appealing clarity.
Now let's zoom out for a second to the really big picture, because there's a massive number we need to talk about: 80%. Everything we've just covered, the danger of blank mockups, the psychology of homework versus a solution, the incredible power of showing the done state, all of this is actually just one single piece of a much larger puzzle. According to the source material, there are actually 5 hidden visual psychology triggers, and together they drive a staggering 80% of Etsy sales. Just think about the gravity of that metric for a second. 80% of sales aren't necessarily driven by having the objectively best product in the world. They're driven by mastering these visual psychological triggers. This whole homework trap, it's literally just the tip of the iceberg. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else might your listings be communicating to buyers that you aren't even aware of?
Which brings us to your actual game plan. If you want to truly optimize your shop and stop leaving money on the table, you've got to master all 5 of these hidden visual psychology triggers. And the great news is the author of our source text has put together a full, deep dive breakdown of all 5 triggers, and you can read the whole thing for free. You can find all of this over at blog.maverickson.com. I highly encourage you to check out the link down in the description and read the full breakdown. It is incredibly eye-opening to realize just how deeply human psychology impacts our purchasing decisions, even on something as simple as a digital planner or a spreadsheet. So I'm going to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. If your current mockups are accidentally assigning homework, what other invisible barriers have you built between your incredible products and your absolute perfect customer? Go check out the blog, optimize those visuals, and start showing your buyers the beautifully finished outcomes they are so desperately looking for. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy optimizing!